everybody, welcome to the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Lamarco. Today, I am joined by my special guest, Paul Blake, one of our writers at Razzball. Paul, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, not much. Enjoying this NFL draft. What's shaking, Bobby?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I'm excited to have Paul on. He's been doing a lot of great work. Dynasty-oriented. He knows a lot about these players. So bringing Paul on today, you're not going to just hear me rambling about how Corey Davis has been impacted by the Jets drafted a receiver. We're going to get some information about these players, too. So we're excited to talk about this through today. But before we do any of that, make sure you're following our channel, Razzball Fantasy on YouTube. There's a little subscribe thing at the bottom of your screen you'll see. We follow all our handles at Bobby Lamarco. Make sure you follow at Razzball as well. And just on cue, we have another one of our team members, JB, dropping in. What's up, JB? Perfect time.
What's up, Bobby? Thanks, man. I was rushing, but I got here.
I love it, man. So I figured this was perfect timing. We're just telling people to subscribe to Razzball Fantasy. And then what better reason to do than JB and Paul Blake, who are on this now. We're going to be doing a lot more live videos on the YouTube channel. We're also going to be talking on TikTok, social media. But make sure you're also going to Razzball.com to check out the latest articles that all our great writers, not only on the football side, but baseball, hockey, basketball, you name it, we do it at Razzball. I even got cool shirts. We have a shop, too. So make sure you're checking it all out. But first off, guys, JB, I want to let you know we're going to have a couple topics today. We're going to talk about the biggest surprises. So I'm going to get your input on that. I'm going to get your biggest first-round snub. And I also want to talk about the best available players before I give you the open forum. So I'm going to start with Paul, though, first. Paul, why don't you give us your biggest first-round surprise so far, whether it's for NFL purposes or fantasy football?
Well, for fantasy, I would say, and for NFL purposes for that matter, I would say Kenneth Walker to the Seahawks was a bit of a shock to me. I do like Kenneth Walker. I think he's really good in the open field. I don't know how you get him to the open field with that porous offensive line, but if you get him in the open field, he's pretty nasty. I just was shocked by that pick. You got Rashad Penny. You got quarterback you could go after. I don't know. What do you guys think? Kenneth Walker to the Seahawks?
So my thought on that is that it really tells me that there's really something seriously wrong with Chris Carson, right? Like he had that neck injury. That might tell me that it could be a season or career-ending type of injury, right? Because if they're going to go ahead and draft another running back to that room, they have 5 running backs in that room right now if you're counting Carson. So that tells me that they're seriously concerned about his ability to come back from that, and they want to be able to have somebody in place because we know Penny's not the healthiest player.
Absolutely not. Now, JB, give us now, spinning right off that, talk about your biggest surprise so far of the first – I guess what? By the way, George Pickens just got drafted by the Steelers. I mean, talk about a team that loves drafting second-round wide receivers. I digress. But, JB, give us your biggest surprise so far.
I would say my biggest surprise is how well the Jets did. I mean, obviously, the Jets have a history of not being a good franchise, right? And they were able to get 3 players they had in their top 10 all in the first round. I mean, the fact that Johnson lasted so long and they were able to get back into the first round at pick 26 and snatch him up, who they had as a guy who they were even targeting with one of their early picks. I mean, they went out and they did the thing. I mean, they got a wide receiver that could be electric. You have a little Wilson to Wilson connection there. And Sauce Gardner he's going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud in this league. He has the swagger already, as you could tell by his ice that he was wearing out yesterday. So I think my biggest surprise was how well the Jets actually did. I'm not used to saying that.
I gotta tell you, my biggest surprise isn't even a draft pick. It's A.J. Brown going to the Eagles. I mean, just taking my soul with him because I'm just watching his fantasy value with Jalen Hurts. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's awesome for real life. Eagles fans, congratulations. I'm a Giants fan, so it hurt me on a personal level, so got to go see someone after this weekend and talk through it. But more importantly, the A.J. Brown situation, I think it's a ding to his fantasy value. I don't love it for fantasy football for him, but I think Jalen Hurts wheels up all day on him, absolutely. But, JB, now forget about the surprises. Let's talk about some snubs. Is there anybody that hasn't been picked so far, or is there anybody in the first round specifically that was a snub that you thought should have been picked in the first round or should have been picked so far in this draft?
N'Kobe Dean. I mean, you got to go N'Kobe Dean, right? I feel like he was a first-round guy, a guy that we thought we would see in the first round. And then even just now, when the Patriots just traded up, I said, okay, boom, they're going to get N'Kobe Dean here. I mean, he's a guy who fits Belichick's mold. He's a smart player. I think he's slipping just because he's a little undersized, but I think whoever ends up getting him now is going to be an absolute steal. I mean, the guy is very smart. He could be a captain of a defense instantly in the NFL. So I think that, you could say Malik Willis slipping could be a surprise, but we all know this quarterback class wasn't great. I think N'Kobe Dean slipping this far is definitely the biggest snub so far.
Now, Paul, do you agree, or do you have a different guy in mind for the biggest snub so far?
Well, I totally agree on N'Kobe Dean. I mean, he was also a high-quality high school prospect coming out. If I remember right, I think he was 4-star, might have been a 5-star recruit on 247. So,
Paul? I think we got frozen. We're frozen up. We're frozen up on Paul. That's all right, Paul. Don't worry about it. I'm surprised that neither of you guys said Malik Willis. I mean, this guy has a bunch of talent. I thought he would be a first-round pick. There was mock drafts out there that had like 4 or 5 quarterbacks going in the first round, and it ends up being 1. And it's so far, it's still just 1. I mean, JB, do you have any thoughts on Malik Willis? Do you have any thoughts on maybe where he might go? Do you think he's going to slip all the way to the 3rd? What's your thoughts on that?
I thought he was actually going to go to Detroit when they just picked a little while ago. But, I mean, I think a lot of the teams right now are looking at next year's draft class, right? And you think about when you play Dynasty, right? Everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, just wait till next year. I think that's what these teams are doing because the quarterback class next year is so much better than the quarterback class we have this year. So I think a lot of teams are going, all right, you know what? We're not going to take a chance on a guy right now who may or may not be it. I mean, he's got questionable ability to read the field, obviously has some raw skills that can translate into the NFL. We've seen it with other quarterbacks. I just think that a lot of teams are going, all right, you know what? Maybe we're better off just waiting for something that we're a little bit more certain of next year.
All right, so let's say, for example, you're a GM, you're around the clock. Let's say we have the Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Bills. There's a lot of non-quarterback needy teams coming, but then you got the Falcons, maybe even the Vikings. Is there any team that you think coming up might take a shot on Malik Willis?
I think the Falcons absolutely should. I mean, why wouldn't they at this point? They got nothing to lose. They drafted a wide receiver here, so you could let the two of them kind of grow together. So I think that would be a good pick for the Falcons. It would hurt me as a Bucs fan because, I hate to see the teams in my division getting better, but, I think it makes sense. It's a smart pick for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about best available players. Now, there's a couple guys that probably had first-round grades, other guys that you talked about that were snubs. But is there anybody else besides the guy you talked about as a snub that you think you're excited to see where he goes either for fantasy or NFL purposes?
I'm interested to see because the Bucs went a different direction than I thought they were going to. I thought the Bucs were going to go cornerback. We had a need at cornerback, and we didn't fill it. We went interior defensive lineman instead. I don't know. I'm looking real quick to see. Andrew Booth did go earlier this round. Oh, Kyler Gordon went to the Bears. Okay. So Kyler Gordon was the guy that I thought the Bucs would take with the first pick of the second round. So he's off the board now. I mean, I feel like overall, you talk about Dean, you talk about Willis. Skyy Moore is a guy who can be an impact wide receiver. He could be a playmaker with the ball in his hands. I think he goes pretty soon. I'm curious to see if like a Desmond Ridder or a Matt Corral end up going this round or next round. That's what I'm curious to see. Because obviously Willis will probably go before them, probably. But I'm curious to see if we get a little bit of a run at the end of this round.
Yeah. Listen, this idea of like a second round quarterback to this day blows my mind. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, can he play or can he not play? In my opinion, like this idea, like, oh yeah, he's not a first round pick, but he's a second round pick. It's like, what is that? Is that Andy Dalton? Is Andy Dalton the prototypical second? He might get you to the playoffs, but you're gonna hate him for the rest of your career. Career, like that sounds like a second round quarterback. So like all these guys. Now, the thing though I like about the later get to drafts is that better teams might start saying, you know what? Now we can take a luxury pick. We have our quarterback. Right. We could take a younger guy. Even a team like the Colts who just got Matt Ryan might say, all right, let's see if we could groom a kid behind a guy like Matt Ryan, for example. So.
Dude, right on cue. Kansas City Chiefs, Skyy Moore.
There you go.
What a perfect fit for him.
Breaking news. So give us your two. All right, let's just do it. We're a breaking news show now, folks. Skyy Moore. Give me your 2 cents on Skyy Moore and his fit with the Chiefs.
It's perfect. I mean, obviously they have a need at wide receiver, right? They lost Tyreek Hill and yes, they brought in Juju, but you got a guy like Skyy Moore who's a playmaker. He's a guy who can be used in the red zone, could be used all over the field. He's a guy that Pat Mahomes is going to love throwing the ball to. I think this is a great value pick here at 54. I mean, he had his career. He's got over almost 2,500 receiving yards and 16 touchdowns. So, I mean, the guy can be a playmaker. He's a deep threat. He checks the boxes for Kansas City. That's a great pick.
Yeah, 90 percentile 40-yard dash. That's pretty good. 99th percentile college target share, 90th percentile college dominator. So he was getting a lot of looks in college. But the interesting thing about this team now, his comparables are weird, right? His Golden Tate, Santana Moss. I don't hate it. I mean, both those guys were legit wide receivers. Seems like a very odd, interesting duo. But that's according to the player profile. Here's player cops. But at the same time, for the Chiefs, too, you have MVS, you got Juju, you got Mecole Hardman. Do you feel like he's going to immediately take one of their spots, or do you think it might be a year or two before he becomes the starter?
No, I think he starts. I don't know that Hardman's ever going to be a thing. I know the fantasy community likes to try to every year say, oh, yeah, Hardman's going to be my guy in the 14th round, and he's going to step up, but he never really does. So, I mean, I don't think that Skyy Moore can't be competition for him. Why not?
I mean, listen, so as the hits just keep on coming, Trey McBride, the first tight end, is finally been drafted by the Cardinals, a team with under Cliff Kingsbury. You think more like spread, 4 wide receivers, but as we saw last year, Zach Ertz and Max XX Williams dominating for fantasy. It looks like they are investing in the position. There you go, you get it. So, what's your thoughts? And what's your what's your thoughts about Trey McBride? I love the fit with the Cardinals long term, but we know with rookie tight ends, they don't make much of an impact year one anyway.
And that's the key, Bobby, because, you mentioned Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz is a guy who I was thinking pretty highly of, coming before the draft, thinking, all right, you know what? He's going to get some targets there. He's going to be productive. He's going to, score his touchdowns. I don't know that McBride's going to come in and just take that away from him right away. He could be a developmental piece that, can step right into that role in a year or two. He's not really a blocking tight end per se. He can catch the ball. I mean, he's got over 2,000 career receiving yards. So, I mean, he's a good receiving threat. He's not just like, all right, let's bring in a blocking tight end to complement Zach Ertz. So it's curious. It's a curious pick, but again, you're talking a good team here that has the luxury now of making a luxury pick like you were just talking about.
Yep. His player comp scoring a player profiler, Heath Miller and Kyle Rudolph. So, I mean, listen, that Heath Miller is like steady Eddie with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kyle Rudolph did have that one rogue, 2016 season where he had 130 targets, and then every other year he was just not even a thing. But interesting player comp. But let's jump back into the first round. Listen, we're trying to break news for the team, but let's get back into that first round. Let's talk a little bit about some of these players that went in the first round. But you have Drake London, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. You tell me, who do you want to talk about based on fit, based on the player? You lead the way. You tell me, JB.
There are a lot of good wide receivers, and what pains me again as a Bucs fan is that Drake London and Chris Olave both landed in my division, which is another reason why I was hoping we drafted a cornerback to kind of combat that. So, I mean, we could start with those two guys because, I mean, London's a guy who I think is probably the best wide receiver in the class. I think he just has the full skill set to come right in day one and have an impact in the league. But I think Olave can also. And I think that, having Jameis Winston, a guy who's known to chuck the rock around, Olave is going to have plenty of opportunity to make plays. And that offense needs it. We don't know what Michael Thomas is going to look like after being out an entire year. So that offense needs another guy, even with him, just to complement him there. And I think Jameis is going to chuck the rock. So out of those two guys, who do you think had the better landing spot, and who do you think has a better fantasy value?
Yeah, it's got to be Drake London, man. I mean, just the Falcons have – I mean, when you're signing Auden Tate, for some reason Auden Tate signing with the Falcons stuck in my head because at the time they don't have any receivers. And I'm like, maybe Auden Tate. He's 6'4", big fourth receiver for the Bengals. No, but seriously, though, this is a type of situation where he's walking in with no Calvin Ridley for 2022. He has a real opportunity to mesh with Marcus Mariota. We could say all we want about Mariota, but we have a nice sample size of him as a starting quarterback with the Titans and Arthur Smith, by the way. And
Yep.
he did support a guy like Rashad Matthews and Delaney Walker. So he could support a tight end and a top 24-ish wide receiver. So I personally just think Drake London probably makes the most sense pre-training camp. Now, he could be a complete dumpster fire once training camps. I don't know. But based on opportunity, I think that's the player I'm excited about. But let's jump over to Garrett Wilson to the Jets. Now, I think it's a logjam. I think Corey Davis and Elijah Moore are both very good receivers. This could be a logjam, a lot to ask for Zach Wilson to support three guys. But do you think Garrett Wilson becomes the alpha, or are you going to be fading this receiving core?
I think he can become the alpha in time. My question here and my problem is who's going to be the guy who comes off the field in two wide receiver sets, right? You just mentioned the two guys ahead of him, and you bring him in with this early pick as the number 10 pick of the draft. You have expectations of him to be a guy for you, right? So, it's going to be interesting to see how they align those receivers and who's the one that's coming off the field. Until we know that, it's hard to kind of predict which one you want over the other one. I love Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is an absolute stud. So I'm hoping that, it's not him that Wilson eats at, but it very well could be if he's not productive.
Yeah, I mean, that Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, two tight end set, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will, right? So I do agree, though, that is going to be a problem. Now, let's talk about one that might have been a little bit of a reach. Jameson Williams. Obviously, a lot of people talk about this guy as the best receiver prior to his injury. But now with the injury, the Lions went up and traded. Everyone's like, oh, here it comes, Malik Willis.
Yep.
Nope, it's Jameson Williams. So give me your 2 cents on Jameson Williams to the Lions.
I think it was a little bit of a reach. I didn't expect that there. I do think that he, before his injury was the most explosive wide receiver in college football. I just don't know how he's going to recover from that injury, and will he still have that same explosiveness at the next level coming off the injury? So I do think it was a little bit of a reach. Obviously, that team does need playmakers. I mean, everybody was talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown like he was the next coming of Antonio Brown, and he's not. I mean, he was a day 3 pick. The guy is like, he's not that guy. Calm down. So having Jameson Williams there now at least gives them a real number 1 wide receiver, as long as he's healthy coming off that injury.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is when you look at the actual receiving core, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, you're asking a lot of Jared Goff, who, by the way, I think probably surprised some people down the stretch playing some competent football with an underwhelming receiving core. But at the same time, now you have Hawkinson. People need to keep in the back of their minds, Jared Goff isn't going to be slinging the ball like, Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert 700 plus times. And Jameson Williams in that case will probably struggle early on until DJ Chark, I think he's only signed like a 1-year contract. Hey, Paul's back. How you doing, Paul?
Made it. Whew.
Yeah. The best part, Paul, is I'm going to set you up real nice. After the Jameson Williams, we're going to go right to Breece Hall. And I know that's one of your guys. And we'll talk about Breece Hall. But Jameson, just to close about this, it's probably more of a dynasty thing where do the Lions take a future quarterback next year? Does Jared Goff, if they go 2-15 this year or 4-13, they're going to get a quarterback next year. And now you have Jameson Williams, DJ Chark leaves in free agency. Josh Reynolds is only on a short contract. So I think that long-term dynasty, I think he's a clever pick in the first round. But let's jump down to probably the most fantasy relevant pick, which broke my heart because Michael Carter. I'm gonna have to farm him out into all my dynasty leagues because that's over with. But I know, Paul, pre-show you told me Breece Hall's your guy. Let's talk about Breece Hall. Let's talk about him with the Jets.
I love the pick by the Jets. I wasn't as high on Carter as some other ones. I thought he was kind of a one-slash guy, kind of a slash runner, a bit of a one-trick pony, but a good player who can break a long one at any time. But I like Breece Hall because of his overall ability. He brings a lot to the table. Excellent receiver, great bloodlines. I believe that he's Roger Craig's nephew. So that kind of makes sense as far as the running ability, pass catching ability. Jeff Smith is his father-in-law, and that guy played at Nebraska as well. He was a fullback on the 83 teams. Quality player. So good bloodlines, good size, good 40 time. Whole lot to like about that. I think he takes over day 1 for the Jets as at least the first and second down back. And I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of ran away with that job.
I'll tell you this. You can go to NFL.com. You can go to PFF. You can go anywhere and get stats. But we're at Razzball, you're going to get bloodlines, folks. We talk about genetics, family history. We know things that you need to know. This guy's got the genes. But, JP, give me your 2 cents on Breece Hall. Obviously, he's probably the most fantasy relevant. I mean, his player comps are Jonathan Taylor, Zeke Elliott, and Matt Forte. So, I mean, obviously, this guy's going to be a stud, right?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is, and it hurts a lot of the Michael Carter roster, all the Michael Carter managers, right? You know, I was actually in the group chat with the Fantasy Besties, and Lindellians was like, "Oh man, this is killing me right now. I have so many Michael Carter shares." And my response to that was, well, you know, it would have been easier for you to do what I did last year and just draft Tevin Coleman in the 16th round everywhere. It's easier to drop Tevin Coleman than it is to drop Michael Carter or try to trade him away. So, you know, I do think Breece Hall was brought in there to be the alpha running back in that room. You know, they're not going to bring him in to play second fiddle to Michael Carter. So, you know, he is going to be an impactful back in this league. And, I mean, again, these Jets are doing a great job, man. It's surprising.
It's wild to say that about the Jets, isn't it, that they're doing so well? If I would go to the comps, I like Matt Forte the most out of those comps for Breece Hall. To be honest with you, you know, does a little bit of everything, kind of a little bit of a taller back, make people miss in the open field, still get away from guys, but do some work in between the tackles too. So I think that's a great comp to get Matt Forte on there.
So I have a question for you guys, right? We keep talking about how well the Jets did. Who do you think had the best draft so far? We're talking round 1 and round 2. Who do you guys think had the best draft so far, Bobby?
I'm going to say Philadelphia Eagles. I think the fact that they get A.J.
Homer.
Brown. Listen, I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not even an Eagles fan. I'm literally the opposite of a homer. I am literally just accepting the fact that, like, listen, Jalen Hurts. I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. I just think that you've got the alpha receivers now on the outside. Now you can get Jalen Reagor off the dang field. You got Zach Pascal, Quez Watkins, Dallas Goedert. I think getting that alpha receiver for relatively a decent price versus what Tyreek Hill got versus what, you know, Davante Adams you had to pay to get. So I'm going to lean Eagles. What about you, Paul?
I like the Eagles call. I like what Brown brings to him. Obviously, he's really good at those slants across the middle, catches them, and just takes off with it. He's really difficult to bring down in the open field, and he runs those deep routes. So I like that. That hurts. I'm a big Quez Watkins fan, so I'm kind of bummed out about Quez. He's going to get knocked back there. But for me, I'm honestly going Lions, which is really tough to say. I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth that I'm saying the Lions. But Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, great. That's arguably the best player in the draft. If you're talking just straight skills, I know I kind of came in at the end of a Jameson Williams conversation, so I don't know what I missed. But if you're talking straight skills and abilities, love Jameson Williams. I really like what I heard from Nick Saban. Nick Saban described him as a dog, which, you know, you don't hear him say that. It felt a little weird hearing him say that, but right. Williams played on special teams. I don't know. I just think that's a quality pick. Those two, you can argue those are 2 top 5 talents that the Lions were able to add in one draft, and I think that's impressive.
Okay. JB, give us your thoughts, man. You asked the question, give us the answer.
So I have 2 answers to this question, actually, right? So my first one's going to be, I'm going to say that I think the Baltimore Ravens did a great job of drafting in these first 2 rounds. Getting Kyle Hamilton as the safety. I mean, he's going to be an impact player there for them. Tyler Linderbaum is the best center in this draft class, and they were able to grab him at 25. And then they came back and got a discount on David Ojabo because of the injury. Now, not only was Ojabo a stud before the injury, but he's going to come in and immediately be comfortable because he's buddies with Owe. So he's going to come in, he's going to be reunited with his buddy. He's going to be comfortable, and just the 2 of them are just going to wreak havoc on defense together. So I think the Baltimore Ravens did a great job of drafting. I think to answer the question of who had the best draft day, right, I'm going to say the Browns. And when I say the Browns, I don't mean the Cleveland Browns. I mean Hollywood Brown and A.J. Brown, right? Because you look at what happened with those 2. Bobby, you mentioned it before about A.J. Brown not only getting traded, but right after he got traded, he got the bag. He got his payday. Mm-hmm. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, he gets to go play with one of his best friends. Kyler Murray was his college quarterback, still best friends. They work out together. They talk all the time. So, I mean, who really made out better than the Browns?
Absolutely. I love friendship. I'm a big fan of this friendship narrative that's going on. Devontae Adams going to play with Derek Carr.
Yep.
I'm all about this. I just love the fact that it just brings out the best when you're playing with your boys. I think they're going to be really excited to get on the field. But the Cardinals situation, we haven't really touched on. So, Paul, I'm going to get your quick thoughts on that. But my thing is this. With the Cardinals, now you have Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz. They just drafted Trey McBride. They also have A.J. Green. They also have DeAndre Hopkins, who buried the lead. And then they have Rondell Moore, who they drafted high last year. Is there too many mouths to feed? What are your thoughts on the Marquise Brown? Paul, let's kick it down to you first.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, how bad are they trying to appease Kyler Murray to get him to stay around? Just like, we'll give you all these weapons. Please stay. I love the Marquise Brown acquisition. I think that's great. I think that's a game changer for them. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Hopkins. He is getting older. It's hard to say this because I've been a big fan of his for a very long time. But, Father Time catches up to all of us. He's had some injury issues. I love Marquise Brown in this pick. Kyler Murray is, I think, possibly a top 5 deep pass guy. He can definitely get it down the field. He's very accurate, very successful when he throws it deep. And I think Marquise Brown will be the benefactor for that. Also, the Ravens were using Marquise Brown a lot of bubble screens, getting him going, just kind of, if they're going to play off, which they often do play off of him, secondaries will play off of Marquise Brown. Hopefully they don't beat him. That underneath quick bubble screen, he kills teams on that. I mean, I think against the Packers, they were really running that. I want to say Tyler Huntley threw that like 6-7 times to him. And it wasn't a big play, but it was, a free 7 yards that he just took. And I don't see why they don't do that in Arizona. I love the acquisition of Marquise Brown. And then Trey McBride, by far my number 1 top tight end in this draft. I think that was an excellent pick by them. Ertz, once again, quality players getting along in the tooth. So I love the McBride acquisition.
JB, thoughts?
I think that, Paul mentioned Father Time when he was talking about Hopkins, but didn't mention him and didn't talk about A.J. Green, right? I mean, that guy is Father Time. So
at this point, he's just a tooth. Forget about being long in the tooth. He's just a giant tooth. That's what A.J. Green is now.
And I think signing A.J. Green, 2 weeks ago was, before they knew they were going to be able to get this deal done, before they knew they were going to draft another offensive weapon and tight end. So, I don't think that, he might not even make the team at this point when you think about it. So I do think I agree with Paul, and I do think that Hollywood Brown's going to thrive with Kyler in this offense.
All right, guys, there's a couple more players that I want to touch on before we get out of here. It's 2 guys that landed in ridiculous spots. The first one's Treylon Burks to the Titans, and the other one's Christian Watkins going to the Packers. I mean, these guys walk into opportunities where they need number 1 wide receivers with competent quarterback play, and, of course, with the Packers, MVP quarterback play. So, JB, let's go to you first. Talk to me about, who do you want, Treylon Burks, or do you want a Christian Watkins?
I'll go Watkins because I think that, he's stepping in, like you said, with an MVP caliber quarterback. I think that obviously Rodgers knows he's, on his way out for the most part. So he wants to make a statement. He's in win now mode, and he finally got a guy now that, we were a little hesitant in the first round going, oh my God, they didn't draft a wide receiver. They finally got him a guy. And Christian Watson's a guy who has the tools. I mean, he's 6'4", 208. So he's a big wide receiver that could go up and get the ball. Yes, his competition at North Dakota State might not have been on an NFL level, but I think he has the skill set to make up for it. I think that, he's the type of guy who could step right into that number 1 role. He'll work well with Rodgers, and he can be an immediate fantasy impact this year.
Now, Paul, I want to get your thoughts on Treylon Burks in just 1 second, but I want to just read you something from Player Profiler about Christian Watson. Yes, he's 6'4", 208. His metrics for his SPARK score, 96th percentile 40-yard dash, 98th percentile speed score, 94th percentile burst score, 96th percentile catch radius, 89th college dominator. But his comparisons, Denzel Mims, Kevin White, Rashard Perriman. You could pretty much argue first and second round bust. I mean, Player Profile, what are you saying here? I'm a little confused, but it's...
Their comps are absurd.
I know. That blew my mind. Yeah, but let's talk about Treylon Burks. Paul, give me your 2 cents on him and his fit with the Titans.
Love Treylon Burks to jump in. I won't say he'll immediately replace A.J. Brown, but he's a very similar player to put into that spot. And if you keep in mind, A.J. Brown, he was late first, maybe early second round pick when he went. So you could argue that Burks has a higher pedigree than him. Burks did it against the SEC competition, did it as the main guy at Arkansas. They were in some games that I was quite frankly surprised that they were in this year, and it was mostly because of Burks. Big, strong guy, breaks tackles in the open field. I've heard some people complain that he doesn't get down the field well. The tape that I watched, he was quite good at getting down the field. So I have him as my second overall fantasy player from this draft. That was before he wound up with the Titans. So just putting him in the Titans, I think that even goes even higher. I think he fell to the best quarterback so far other than Christian Watson, which, oh my gosh, that's exciting right there. I don't know about those two, those player comps being all over the place, but yeah. I'm a big fan of him as well. When I watched his tape, I saw a couple different plays. Usually it was a deep pass, and he's just running by guys and just leaving them off the screen, like high school tape stuff, where the defender's not even on the screen with them. Saw a lot of wide receiver sweeps that he was running and kind of these jet sweeps he was going on, and he was just putting people in past him. I don't know if he's good after the catch or not, because no one could even be near him while he, while he was in college.
You have to go past people with the ball in your hands to be good after the catch. Yeah, it's all, I got you, man. But listen, guys.
Love Burks.
Before we get out of here, JB, I want to go to you guys one more time. Just, we talked about a lot of players. Now, JB, I know you're a bit diehard Bucs fan, so if you want to use your time at the end to talk about your Bucs, go ahead. But is there another player, another fantasy situation? Is there a situation you're looking forward to the most based on everything that's happened? Last call, folks. Give me your last final thoughts. JB, you go first on the NFL draft. Who do you want to talk about to close out?
I want to talk about the Houston Texans' lack of drafting a running back. I'm shocked that they made 4 picks and not one of them was a running back. I mean, this is a team that didn't have a running back. Rex Burkhead was running that backfield for a while last year. So I'm really blown away at the fact that, look, taking Stingley with the number 3 pick, fine. I get that. That's a great pick. Even Kenyon Green shores up your offensive line. But then with your 2 selections in the second round, how do you not take a running back there? There's running backs there for you to take. So that one just kind of blew me away, and I wasn't sure what they were missing there.
Yeah, Paul, same question.
Well, the guy that I really like is Wan'Dale Robinson. Not to steal any thunder if the Giants fan was planning on going with him, but I've seen more Wan'Dale than probably everyone else in this draft. Watched him a lot at Nebraska. Watched him a lot at Kentucky. This is a tough kid. They list him at 5'11". There's no way he's 5'11". This guy's 5'8", maybe 180. And he runs big. He gets in between guys. He's good between the tackles. He can play running back if you need him to play running back, but he won't need to in the NFL. He's going to play slot receiver. I'm kind of bummed that he went to the Giants. I was hoping he'd go to the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs could have utilized him much better. You get this guy into the open space, and he is really, really good. I look at Kenneth Walker going above him, and I don't think Kenneth Walker is as good in the open field, and I don't think Kenneth Walker is good enough to run in between tackles. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's better than him, and the Giants are sitting back there and just catching him and doing what they can. And also the other things that I want to bring up out of this is the pedigree is a big thing. Like Wan'Dale Robinson was almost a 5-star recruit. He was as high as you get as a 4-star. He was coming from Kentucky, which isn't, you don't have a whole lot of recruiting focus on that area. So for him to kind of elevate himself, push himself beyond that, worked out with Rondale Moore, and I think he's more athletic than Rondale Moore. So I'm super stoked for Wan'Dale Robinson. I hope the Giants can get it together and figure out what they want to do with him. But if they can, look out. This could be a pretty good value pick in fantasy drafts coming up.
Do you guys think that Wan'Dale Robinson pick kind of signals the end of Kadarius Toney in New York with all the drama that he's had these past 2 years?
Darius Slayton's on the trade. Yeah. Well, I have a couple things to think about that because I'm a Giants fan. So, at this point, the Wan'Dale Robinson situation, First of all, Paul, do you think he could fit like an Isaiah McKenzie role in year one because of Brian Daboll, how he used him in Buffalo? Do you think that's something he could do, or do you think he should be doing more than that?
Yes to both. I love Isaiah McKenzie. I thought that was a great pickup. I think he had some McKenzie, that is, had some kind of personality issues, some things he had to work through. The Bills waited it out, and look, now they're reaping the rewards. Yep. I think Wandale's even better than that. He's got crazy athleticism, and he keeps getting hit really hard. The thing that concerns me with him, when I watch him in the NCAA, when I watch him in college football, he takes big hit after big hit, and you're kind of just holding your breath like, oh my gosh, is he going to get up? Is this little guy going to be able to get back up? And he just keeps getting back up, keeps making plays. I think Giants fans are going to like him a lot because they're going to see that toughness. They're going to see that tenacity. I think the New York football Giant fans are going to be in love with this cat.
Yeah, I can tell you as a Giants fan, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 or 5 games this year where he's going to have to start because Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. Kenny Golladay couldn't stay healthy. Darius Slayton couldn't stay healthy. You name it, you join the Giants and you catch footballs, you're not going to stay healthy. That's basically the theme. Just to close out on my thoughts, the final thoughts on this whole situation, what's going on with quarterbacks? Since when did we have so many quarterbacks that no one wants them anymore? Baker Mayfield's still available. You have Jimmy G still available. You have Malik Willis still available. All of a sudden, we're a bunch of hot shots, and we're like, oh, yeah, this guy's pretty good, but we don't need him. Ridiculous. I just think I'm super excited that still we're halfway through the second round. We're actually almost done with the second round, and we still have so many different quarterbacks that could change teams, like a Baker and a Jimmy G and a Malik Willis that could be a solid player in the future. So I'm super excited for that. But once again, guys, this was awesome, by the way. Hey, look at Razzball Fantasy Football coming through during the NFL draft, guys. I really do appreciate JB and Paul. You guys came big, brought the facts, you brought the knowledge. Guys, I'm hoping we can do this again real soon. But once again, make sure you're following Razzball Fantasy on YouTube. Make sure you're following them on Twitter, TikTok, IG, you name it, we got it. Make sure you're following us across the board. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby Lamarco, the Fantasy Football, Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks again to JB and Paul. Once again, guys, we are out of here.